Greetings, YouTube. This weekend, my wife and I caught a showing of the Angelina Jolie film, Salt. Now, this is going to be a spoiler-filled review, so please, if you have not seen it and you wish to remain in the dark, stop watching now. Alright, I grew up during the Cold War era, and I saw a lot of Cold War era spy movies. From the classics like James Bond through the more obscure ones like Day of the Condor. Not obscure, but less popular than Bond. And I had a great affection for them. And in that light, I think that Salt is an excellent example of an ode to that era of Cold War spy films. It does a very good job, and it doesn't set itself too deeply into time. It does things like, for example, saying 2 years ago in present day. Now, there are a few things that do set it. For example, some of the cell phones and some of the targets designed as potential attack sites are applicable to our era, but in a very loose way. They could, you're 10 years in either direction of this film as far as when it was released, 2009, I think it was, or maybe 2010. This film could have been set in anywhere in that time frame, so it's going to have a little more longevity. Films that really set themselves in a hard, firm date a lot faster. They don't have as much legs, in my opinion. And Anjali does an excellent job of portraying herself as a CIA agent who's involved in questioning and interrogating prisoners to find out if they're good or if they're viable or not, whether they are legitimate intelligence sources or they are just blowing smoke. Now, one of Anjali's problems is that she has this wonderfully statuesque facade. She looks wonderful on camera, but she isn't particularly good, in my opinion, of emoting. She never has been. She's always looked really good. Forever. She probably always will. She's probably one of those annoying people that's going to age really well. And this film, in my opinion, needed her to emote more. I needed to see things in her face that I don't think that she could deliver to me. Now, there were problems with this for me as far as what she did in the film as a character and some of the illogical aspects. I think that she was asked to do things physically that I don't believe that someone with her build could do. She was outborning Jason Bourne. She was doing things that I think she would need 30 more pounds of muscle and be probably 6 inches taller to really pull off. There are certain physical limits to what people can do, and if you are her size and weight, you fall on the other side of that. You can't do certain things, and I think that the character was asked to do things that I didn't believe that the person playing the character could do. There's also a scene where she extracts venom from a spider. Yes, I know, this is going to seem really obscure, but extracting venom from a spider is a very complex task. You have to very carefully immobilize the spider. You have to very carefully apply an incredibly small electrical current to stimulate the spider's poison glands. Then you have to use a glass pipette, an incredibly thin glass tube. It's literally the size of a human hair. And the amount you get out of a spider for that venom quantity is minuscule. Now, it's enough to harm a human being, of course, at least certain spiders, but it's a very small amount. You probably couldn't see it with the naked eye. In the film, she extracts venom from a spider with an ordinary, everyday syringe. Not even a really fine syringe like that I used to use for insulin, but an ordinary, larger scale syringe. And she gets like 2 or 3 cc's of venom. That would take you thousands of spiders and would be worth literally millions and millions of dollars. So that right there, I'm like, do these people have any idea what they're doing? Obviously they don't. They are depending upon the viewing audience not having an understanding of spiders, which is acceptable. Most people don't. I happen to have a fascination for them, and I actually own one of the best references in the world, which was unfortunately not cheap. And it's another scene where she's revealed to be, big spoiler here, folks, a Russian spy. Now, she was trained when she was 13, and then she was sent to be a mole in America. At some time along that process, she fell in love with a German national who was an arachnologist, who broke her heart and made her feel true emotions for the first time. She fell hopelessly in love with him. All of her training went out the window, and now she's no longer really a true mole. She's a double agent, essentially, even though the U.S. government doesn't know that she is. She's not really going to do what the Russians programmed her to do. She's going to fight for our rights. Now, in this program that she was trained in, there were a number of other students, all trained at the same time, to be perfect moles, raised to speak English first and Russian second, completely immersed in American culture. Now, she murders a whole bunch of these people. They were her siblings. They were just as much a victim of the system as she was. So, while her programming may have failed and she may not be working for the Soviets any longer, she is a cold-hearted bitch, and she's willing to kill people in her way, even though they are victims and her siblings. All for the love of a man who gets murdered in front of her eyes. So now it's a revenge flick. Now, she does save America, of course, and save the world from falling into a third world war, which is nice of her. But at the end of the day, this is a revenge flick. One where she's killing members of her own family. It was entertaining. And it's got sequels screaming all over that ending. But I will not be seeing the sequel in the theaters. I don't even know if I'll see it in the cheap theaters. I may wait until it's on DVD before I catch it. I'd like to see this film on DVD with the commentary to see what the director has to say, because I think he made some interesting choices. Some nice blocking, good action scenes. I think that he had a real sense of the authenticity of the intelligence agencies, the interrogation rooms, the U.S. presidential bunker, things like that. He had a real nice eye for that, and I'd like to hear his thoughts about the film. But as far as being believable, no. Now, Angelina Jolie was awesome in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. But Mr. and Mrs. Smith was satire on spy movies. This is supposed to be a spy movie. And yet it came off a lot less seriously than I think they intended.